Hey guys, before this episode starts, I just wanted to remind you that if you like what you see here and you want to see more of me, you can always subscribe to my main YouTube channel, Kingtanic. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Otaku Experience, the anime non-news show where we talk about the current goings-on in the anime and manga industry with our very uneducated opinions. I am once again your host, Israel. How you guys doing? Now you might see this little thing. Well, actually, I guess let me take this back off. There we go. Let me take that off. You might see this hanging around on me. You might be like, oh, it's a cool stylistic choice. It's actually not. Couple days ago, as of filming this, I actually dislocated my shoulder, which is nothing normal. As you can see, I have KT tape on it right now. It's nothing abnormal for me to dislocate my shoulder every now and then, but it definitely did something that it's never done before, in the sense that usually it dislocates almost like this, almost adjacent to the rest of my body, or it'll dislocate either a little more forward or a little more back. This time it dislocated, and I'm not going to risk doing it with this arm, so I'm going to do it with this arm. This time it dislocated at an upward angle, which it's never done before. And so it's clicking a lot more than usual. It's a lot more sore than it usually is for me. And I don't really know why my body does this to me. It's happened ever since I was back in high school. It was my senior year of high school. And we had a pool party for our fine arts, for the group I was in fine arts for our show choir. And I jumped into the pool, dislocated, but it popped right back in, so I was fine. Then it happened again later. It didn't go back in, and so I kind of had to hold it like this for about 45 minutes until they got me home. Someone had to drive my car back to my house, and then my parents had to, show up, and then my dad had to pop it back into place. And that was not a lot of fun, but ever since then, it's dislocated a few times every year, and so it hasn't dislocated for me, I don't think, the entirety of this year. So this was the first one. So it really surprised me, as a lot of you know, if you've been watching the Otaku Experience for a while, or if you follow me on social media or on my main YouTube channel, Kingtanic, you would know that I work in construction as my job, and then this is what I like to do. And working in construction, it kind of gives me the ability to do what I do. It's a lot easier for me to do it in construction than it would be in other jobs, because the schedule is a lot more flexible. I have a lot more freedom in the day in terms of what I can do. And I just like what I do. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, and so I was hammering something at this angle because it was the only way I could reach it. And then one swing, two swing, pow, gone. And that's kind of what happened with this shoulder. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Just kidding, it wasn't. And so it really hurt. So I'm trying to keep weight off of it. And I'm right-handed, so I can't do this show with my left hand. So I'm going to have to use it for this show this week. But it should be back to normal, semi-normal-ish next week. It's going to take a bit to fully heal, but I'll be able to use it and stuff with lighter weight and things like that, getting back into the groove of using things next week. So that'll be interesting. But I felt like, y'all would see this and y'all would be like, what the heck is that? Maybe you weren't even wondering, and now I just told you something that you didn't even care about. But that being said, we're going to get right into the stories, starting with box office update for the first Slam Dunk and The Boy and the Heron. So starting with the first Slam Dunk, if you don't know, is a basketball anime film that released in Japan, I believe, in January of this year. It may have been late December, but I believe it was January of this year in Japan. Did really, really well, broke a lot of records. And then it came to the US a couple weeks ago. I sadly did not have a chance to see it, and now it's out of theaters, I believe, at least for the most part. And so I probably am going to miss this until digital or something like that, when it comes on Crunchyroll or Netflix or wherever the heck it goes. I honestly, with movies, a lot of them, especially in anime, I buy them on YouTube, and then I just watch them on YouTube. I own Your Name on YouTube, I own A Silent Voice on YouTube, I own Bell on YouTube, and things like that. And so this is now here in theaters. It's now gone, probably. A lot of people saw it. A lot of people liked it. And so it's been doing very, very well. And it looks like we kind of know what it's going to look like in the final in the final bit how it's going to end up in the domestic box office run, and basically in conclusion, like leading off of that into the worldwide total run for this. So here is what Box Office Mojo has said. So it made another 110,000 in the second weekend, which was an 83% drop from the around 600,000, a little more than 600,000 in its first weekend. So now it's made about $1 million total in its domestic run, and that's about as much as it's going to do. It's not going to do anything except for maybe a few $1,000s here and there, because it's going to be mainly pulled out of movie theaters after the second weekend, and that leaves it with a 152 million worldwide total box office, which shows a huge departure between the American box office and the rest of the world's box office, and we know that that's going to be the case. It's going to be kind of skewed with any foreign film. It's going to do that. But I still am a big proponent of, and we'll talk about this more with The Boy and the Heron, that marketing is essential, especially with these movies that people don't know are coming out. Like, it's easier for a movie like Suzume to do well, or like Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen, because those have fan bases. You have the Makoto Shinkai fan base pumping up Suzume. You have the Demon Slayer fan base pumping up Mugen Train, or the Swordsmith Village movie. It was bad. Or you have the Jujutsu Kaisen fan base pumping up the Jujutsu Kaisen movie when that was coming out. And so you have those fan bases who kind of do the marketing for it. A lot like what we're seeing with the Blue Beetle, the DC fan base rallying for Blue Beetle because, the writer's strike and the actor's strike is happening in Hollywood. And DC's kind of shown that they're not really going to market this movie. And so then the box office projections came in and it was pacing really, really low. And so the fans were like, we'll market this ourselves. And so you kind of have that built in when you have those bigger, whether it's a franchise like Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, or you just have a filmmaker and a storyteller that certain fans follow, like with Makoto Shinkai. And so those kind of do that for you. And I think to a degree, The Boy and the Heron, because I'm going to mention that here in a bit, but I think with something like the first slam dunk that people don't know about, or what we saw about a month or two ago with Lonely Castle in the Mirror, or what we saw last year with, well, I guess I was going to say Belle, but I think Belle did a little bit better. But with these smaller anime films that aren't really based on anything major, or don't really have like a big studio working on them, or a big campaign and marketing, or whatever the case may be, without any form of that marketing, if the film just kind of sneaks into theaters, it's really going to show. And I think that I wouldn't say that this would have a 50% of the box office coming from the US or anything like that, but it would have a much higher release. Like, I think the opening weekend could have been 1 million rather than that being what its final domestic box office run would be. I think that it could have been a 1 million opening weekend, and then let's say it still keeps the 80% drop. Although I believe that if it would have made 1 million in its opening weekend, that more theaters would have kept it. In which case there would have been more theaters for people to see it in. There would have been more screenings and things like that. And so then I think that, let's say, instead of 83, let's say like a 70% drop. If that goes from 1 million to a 70% drop, that's still 300,000. Suddenly we're already at 1.3 million, even with a smaller marketing campaign. But I think that if they actually marketed this film, because there's a huge anime fan base going, that's the whole reason why the Otaku Experience is a thing that we're doing. It's because there actually is a huge fan base that's taking over the pop culture zeitgeist. We've talked about statistics that show that 50% of Gen Z watches anime, and it's not as big of a proportion with other generations, but it's still a large proportion of people that are watching anime, and it just continually grows. And so there is a fan base here, and there is a market here, as we've seen before with these movies that do really, really well, like Demon Slayer, like Jujutsu Kaisen, like Suzume, that can do decently in America. And then you have these studios that just don't want to market it for whatever the reason may be. We'll talk specifically a lot about that with The Boy and the Heron, but I think that for what the circumstances were pertaining to the domestic run for the first slam dunk, I think that this is an okay box office run for it in the US. Obviously, it had an amazing worldwide run, so it didn't really need to do all that well in the US, which is maybe why they didn't market it that much, but I still think that you still left money on the table because you could have done more. But I think that for what it's worth, and for everything that did happen or lack thereof. I think that it's a fine box office run in America. It's a great box office run worldwide. And so that's kind of how the first slam dunk is going to finish out. It's going to finish out at about a 152 million worldwide, which is really, really good. And so I'm looking forward to especially seeing the critical and audience reaction to this, as well as seeing how well it's done in terms of the box office. I'm very excited to see this film eventually when it comes to digital, because sadly I did miss it. But going into the next box office update, we have The Boy and the Heron. So The Boy and the Heron, if you guys don't know, is the final. I still don't know if it's going to be. I mean, he is getting up there in age, so I assume he would want to retire and spend the last few years of his life, not making a movie, because making movies are really, really hard and stressful and time consuming and everything like that. I think he would want to, just kind of relax and chill out for the last few years of his life. But this is apparently the final film from Hayao Miyazaki, and it has just finished its fourth week at the box office, and it is now at $38.6 million, basically worldwide, at least for what Box Office Mojo is giving us. So I believe that this is only released in Japan so far, and so it's going to get more releases. It's obviously releasing in the US. I believe in winter, it's going to be a November or December release for the US, and so that's when we'll get to see it. I actually saw an article saying that this is actually going to release in IMAX, like it's going to get a full IMAX run, and I was like, bro, anime in like IMAX, like true IMAX, like is this like what kind of IMAX are we talking about? Like is it going to be like no expanded aspect ratio, but it's just on a bigger screen, or like what's going on here? Is there's going to be something? I don't know. I'll see it in IMAX and it'll just be fun. I'm just excited to see it in IMAX. And so this has done, I think, pretty darn well, especially because unlike the first slam dunk, it did not have a marketing campaign in Japan. The first slam dunk didn't have a marketing campaign really at all for the US. And The Boy and the Heron didn't have a marketing campaign at all, aside for one poster. And we talked about that a few weeks ago. I stand by what I said, that I think Ghibli made a stupid decision with that decision. Obviously, I mean, look, it's doing fine. And we'll compare it to Suzume's box office and the first slam dunk's box office in Japan by the 4-week mark. But I think with no marketing, this is actually doing very, very well. I think with marketing, you're looking at a much higher run. I don't know why they didn't market it. I was even looking for pictures to put in, because I do graphics, and I couldn't find an image for this, like a decent image, because there's no marketing. Like, it's just the poster. It's the poster. And I get tired of reusing the poster every single time, but that's all we have. And I'm like, why didn't they market this? Like, bro, it's the final film from Hayao Miyazaki. Now, we did talk about last week, I believe it was last week, or it might have been the week before that, How Do You Live, or The Boy and the Heron, which I think they're actually calling it How Do You Live as the English title. That is actually going to be going to the Toronto International Film Festival, and that's going to be the opening night thing, which is a big thing because it's the first animated film and it's also the first Japanese film to ever open for TIFF. And so to me, that was a very aggressive move, especially with the big IMAX run coming later this year in the US, that they're going to push for an Oscar for like best animated feature. And we kind of talked about that last week of how that could do against like something like Spider-Verse, or I'm hearing that TMNT might be a big contender for that. I don't really see that. I think that if Boy and the Heron does live up to what we're hearing about it, I mean, we haven't seen anything about it other than a poster, that it could be just a Boy and the Heron and Spider-Verse race in that. And a lot of people are predicting, even Variety came out in an article either this week or last week saying that they believe that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to be nominated for Best Picture. And if that's the case, that means it's basically a dead giveaway that it's going to win Best Animated Feature, which, I would kind of like. I don't know if they would ever do this, but I think just nominating Spider-Verse for Best Picture would be a big thing, and then give The Boy and the Heron the Best Animated Oscar. And then you can still be like, yeah, but Spider-Verse got nominated for Best Picture. So, and then you can have that like, well, Spider-Verse, should it have gotten the animated? But, you can have that whole discussion. But I would like to see, just because it's Hayao Miyazaki's final film and he's only gotten an honorary Oscar, I would like to see his final film, get some love. At least it'll probably be nominated, which that's something really, really cool we can talk about. But comparing this $38.6 million to two other films, two other big films, anime films that have come out this year, we have The First Slam Dunk and we have Suzume. Well, Suzume actually came out late last year, but a lot of its box office run was in this year. So comparing it to the first Slam Dunk, it's actually outpacing the first Slam Dunk by about $500,000. So the first Slam Dunk was at around $38.1 million by the end of its fourth week. And this is now at $38.6 million. And so without a marketing campaign, it just shows just the Ghibli name and the fact that Miyazaki is there. And I assume there's going to be some repeat viewings that people are still going to see this, which would have shown you that if you marketed it, this would have been doing so much better. And another film to compare this to would be Suzume. And so Suzume at this point was about $18 million ahead of it. It was at about $56 million by the time at the end of its fourth week. And that was after a major marketing campaign. So I assume that if this had a bigger marketing campaign, I assume that this could have been on par, if not surpassing Suzume, or maybe even just a scooch below it. But anyways, I think that it could have been around that bubble, which I think would have been a lot better. Because at the end of the day, Ghibli, that's more money in your pocket. I don't know why you didn't market this. I've talked about that ad nauseum. We don't need to keep complaining about this anymore, but I don't get that. I don't get that, Ghibli. I think that that's just a really goofy decision. I don't understand. But what we can say is that without a marketing campaign, this is a fan-freaking-tastic run. I think with a marketing campaign, this would have done a lot better. So if we're talking about pure potential, this is an okay run for The Boy and the Heron, or How Do You Live, because there's two freaking English titles for it. I think How Do You Live is actually what they're going with, like when they market it in the US, that's what they're going to call it. But the translation is The Boy and the Heron. At least that's what the articles are kind of split. Everybody calls it different things, so I don't know what to call it. The Boy and the How Do You Live. I don't know. But I think that with if we look at it with its potential, it's just an okay box office run. But if you look at it with everything that happened, the fact that they're not going to market it, and things like that, I think that this is a really, really good box office run. So it's kind of all based on how you look at it. If you look at it how I look at it, which is you could have marketed this could have been a much higher number, or then you're kind of where I'm at, and you think that this could have been a lot better, and this is just an okay box office performance. Or you can look at it from the angle that, well, they chose not to market it and it's doing really well despite that. And so I guess it kind of depends on what you would want to view that as. For me, I can't get over the fact that they chose not to market it. I just think that was such a stupid decision. And I can't get over that. I can't. It makes me sad. I can't do it. I'm depressed. But hopefully, and I keep saying this every week, hopefully they will market it for the US. Let's hope so. Let's hope that after TIFF, there is at least a decent marketing campaign. Let's at least get a different poster. Can we get posters of characters, please? Maybe, I don't freaking know. Maybe an interview. I don't know. Just something, please. Like a trailer, just a teaser. Maybe, I don't know. One can dream. But that being said, what do you guys think of the box office run for the first Slam Dunk? And, because that's basically done, or the current box office run of The Boy and the Heron? Do you kind of view it how I do, or do you kind of view it as, well, no, this is like a decent run because there was no marketing, and because of those variables that were taking place, this is still a really excellent run. It's really interesting that both of these films could have done better in the markets that they're currently in, the first Slam Dunk being in the US and The Boy and the Heron being in Japan. They both could have done better had they just marketed in their regions. And so it's really frustrating that the fact that it's almost like they didn't even try is the reason for, I guess, disappointing runs. But that being said, what do you guys think about the box office for these things? And we're going to move right on to the next story, which is more anime movie news. And so this time it's not box office, but it has to do with release dates. And so we have the box office for, or not the box office, we have the release dates for The Tunnel to Summer, The Exit of Goodbyes, which is an anime film that was licensed by High Dive. If I can find my graphic here. That's not my graphic. Where's my graphic? Where's my graphic? I made this. Yo, I made my graphic. Can I have my graphic, please? Did I not save my graphic? Oh, no, here it is. Why are you not with the rest of them? It was in like a different area. Anyways, I'm so prepared. I get too prepared for these episodes. But that being said, High Dive licensed the film for this. It is adapted from a light novel of the same name, I believe. It is getting a fall release according to High Dive. And I believe that this came out last year it came out September last year. Yes, it was like 9/9. It was like September 9th, 2022. This is getting a fall/winter release in the US, at least from what I read. And so there is a little bit of a synopsis in case you guys don't know what this is. And it says this. Urashima Tunnel. Once you enter that tunnel, you can get whatever you want, but at a price. Kaoru Tono, who seems to have an elusive personality and a traumatic past, and Anzu Hanashiro, who is struggling to reconcile her ideal image and true-to-heart attitude, team up to investigate the Urashima Tunnel and get what they want. This is an unforgettable summer story of nostalgia and sprinting in a remote countryside. Well, I love when unforgettable summer stories come out in the fall. Anyways, it looks good to me. I've been excited to see this ever since I saw this promotional art that came out, I believe, around last year. It could have been earlier this year, but I believe it was around last year, late last year, that we saw this promotional art, and I've been excited ever since. And I've just been waiting for this film. And so I'm excited to see it, hopefully in the fall this year. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Are you guys interested? I didn't show screenshots from the trailer, but there is a trailer out. It didn't release with this news, which is why it's not here, which is why like the photos aren't here, but the trailer did look really solid. I really liked the voice acting and like the music that was going on. I really loved the animation. I think this can be really, really interesting to see. So that is coming out in the fall. There's no specific release date, but we do have a season release date. So I'm assuming that's going to be October, November, December, because that's when the anime fall season is when we're talking about shows. So I assume when they say fall, they mean within that range. So we're which honestly I might say is closer to like a winter season, but that's fine. But then we got another release date for Komada, a Whisky Family, which we've talked about a bit before on the Otaku Experience. And this is the original anime movie from PA Works. And this got a Japanese release date on November 10th, which means for us that we're probably going to get it around 6 months later, because that's usually when we get them in the States. And so that's probably, a May-ish release date. May, maybe April, probably May or June. If we're being honest. And so that's exciting, which means that we'll be able to talk about this next year, which means that this is still about a year away for us. A little under a year. It's like 10 months, which, when you think about it like that, it's not really that exciting. But, we have a synopsis here. I don't know how to make it sound better than it is, but we have a synopsis here for the film from PA Works, and it says this. The plot of Komada, a Whisky Family movie, follows Kotaro, a novice editor for an online news website, who visits Komada Distillery for a project on Japanese craft whiskey. Led by a young female president, Rui, who recently took over the family business, the distillery works hard to reproduce its signature whiskey, Koma, they had to stop making years ago. Koma was a brand that Rui's grandfather and father had lovingly preserved, and a symbol of happiness for all. However, not to mention financial backing, too many clues are missing to revive the whiskey once lost. Rui Kotaro, I don't know why I read that wrong. I read it freaking earlier. Kotaro and the distillery supporters pull together every thread to bring back the whiskey filled with family memories. So it sounds like just a very sweet slice of life story, which I'm all for. Just bring me the feels, make me happy, make me care, and I'm all for that. And so, like I said, this is coming out November 10th in Japan. So if you're going to be visiting Japan in November, I guess you can see it then. Or if you live in Japan, you can watch it then. But for us in the States, at least, and I assume, in the UK and other regions, it's going to be a few months. So it's going to be around, 4 to 6 months, I would say, in that ballpark. So we're looking at probably an April to a June window, which, is maybe exciting for you, but I wish it could be sooner, but it is what it is. But anyways, guys, are you excited for these anime movies coming out? We have The Tunnel to Summer, The Exit of Goodbyes, and we have Komada, a Whisky Family. I think both look decent, both look pretty good, and I'm excited to see both of them. But with that being said, guys, we're going to move right on into the next story, which is anime announcements. We have some announcements for new anime, whether they are sequels, anime originals, or new franchises altogether that are based on a pre-existing source material. So starting off, we have Sound Euphonium, this is going to be a season 3 to Sound Euphonium, which has actually been going on for like a really, really long time, like over a decade or something like that. I actually had no idea what this was. And so I looked into it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a decent, this is like a really decent show, like, or a decent performing show. I was like, oh my gosh, how is this a franchise I've never heard of? Now, one thing about it though, is it seems like it's been on the decline. So the first season has around 400,000 members on my anime list. The second season has around 200. Then there's a movie in between those that has, I think it was like 80 or maybe like closer to 100. Then there was another movie after that, I think, or something like that. Anyways, it went down to like, double digit thousands. And I was like, oh, is this like a dead franchise? So this was kind of surprising to me when I saw the headline and then I saw the first season, how popular that was. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay. I'm surprised this took so long. Then when I, kept going through, I was like, now I'm like, well, why is this happening at all? Why isn't this a reboot? Or why isn't this? Because this is an older franchise, I would say. I think it's safe to say that when it's like a decade old, I think we can say it's an older franchise and it's in room to reboot if they want to. But they've decided to go for a third season, and maybe the movie people just skipped and they'll plan on watching the third season. Who am I to say? But just based on seeing how the audience like kind of decreased by half every time there was a new outing, it kind of scares me for the success of this show. So anyways, this is coming to us from Kyoto Animation. So that actually means, at least the way I take that actually might mean that this was originally going to come sooner, but because of the arson fire, it actually had to get pushed back and delayed. Which is very sad to hear, but we saw that with many Kyoto projects, that things that were originally supposed to come out actually ended up getting pushed back. We saw that with Dragon Maid. That was their first show back, and that was back in 2021? Was that 2021? Gosh, that was so long ago. I feel like I just watched it. And so that was a great return for them, and they've been back since. And so I have a feeling that, assuming that Dragon Maid was going to come out back in like late 2019 or 2020, that this probably would have come out, either this year or even like late last year. But everything kind of got pushed off because of that. I could be wrong, but that's kind of, I guess, my tinfoil hat theory, for lack of a better term. But anyways, there is a little bit of a synopsis here because I'm assuming that many of us here haven't watched this, or a lot of us haven't even heard of it, like me, before I even saw this headline. And so I did grab the synopsis for the first season, so that way we can see if, we want to pique our interest and catch up to watch season 3 when it comes out in April next year. So the synopsis says this. Now that Kumiko Ome has enrolled in Kitauji High School, she hopes to forget about her past. Despite her desire for a fresh start, she gets dragged into the school's band club by her new friends, Sapphire Kawashima and Hazuki Kato, and is once again stuck playing the Euphonium. As the band currently stands, they won't be able to participate in the local festival, Sunfest, let alone compete at a national level. The band's new advisor, Noboru Taki, gives them a choice. They can relax and have fun, or practice hard and attempt to get into nationals. Not wanting to repeat her mistakes from middle school, Kumiko is doubtful as to whether they should try for nationals. Amidst the chaos, she learns that her old bandmate, Reina Kosaka, who she had a bitter relationship with, has joined Kitauji's band club. Under the pressure of Noboru's strict training, Kumiko and her bandmates must learn to overcome their struggles and find success together. So, me personally, I think that sounds really, really sweet and cute, and I might check it out. It doesn't sound like it's like a must-watch show where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to check this out. And so I'm not going to beat myself up for not checking it out. But I will say that looking at like the promotional art, looking at everything I saw as I was looking up what this is, what the story is, everything like that, looking in to prepare for this story, everything so far, I haven't seen anything to sway me away from it other than seeing the audience decrease in every season. But that happens to a degree in everything, but it's almost like a half cutoff every single time that there's a new thing, whether it's a season or a movie. And so that kind of scares me that maybe it decreases in quality, or maybe it was fine, but nothing to make you want to stick around for later seasons. So I'm going to check it out, or at least I'm going to plan to check it out. But I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't like it, or I never get around to checking it out, simply because of how that's kind of petered off. But maybe this is going to get nominated for Anime of the Year and it'll win. Who's to say? Who knows what happened? Because Fruits Basket did that. So maybe this is going to be the final season. And we can see how that goes from there. But we do have a few others coming out. And so, like I said, this is coming out. Sound Euphonium is coming out in April 2024. We did have 3 other anime announcements. One of which being a sequel to one of the worst anime I've watched in recent memory. And that is, I think this is actually a 2021 anime, but I could be a bit wrong here. I'm trying to find my freaking images. Where do I put these things? Aha, I did it. I'm so smart. And that is Spirit Chronicles. Spirit Chronicles is garbage. It's so bad. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. I think I did a seasonal review when this came out. I could be wrong. It could have been one of the seasonal reviews I skipped, but I'm pretty sure I talked about this. It's really, really bad. It's so bad that it kind of makes me want to stick around and watch the second season just to see if it like gets better, maybe it gets worse. Who's to say? And the best that the show ever got was inoffensively unremarkable. That was the best it got. And the worst it got was just absolutely atrociously boring and kind of offensive to me, but not like offensive in the sense that it like did anything like wrong or anything like that. But I mean like offensive in the fact that they like made this and released it. I don't know if that's like mean to say, but like, bro, I was so upset about this. But anyway, season 2 is coming out. And this is obviously being made by TMS Entertainment, who I believe is the same studio that made the first season. And this is getting a 2024 release. Yippee. And so they also gave the synopsis for the overall series, which would be mainly the synopsis for the first season, or at least, you know, something to catch your interest. So I really don't want to read it, but I guess for you guys, for the sake of journalist integrity, I must. Meet Ryo, a callous orphaned boy living in the slums. At only 7 years old, he realizes he is actually the reincarnation of Haruto Amakawa, a Japanese university student with a tragic past. While still reeling from this shocking epiphany, Ryo also comes to learn that he possesses extremely potent magical abilities and uses his new powers to solve the kidnapping case of a little girl. His good deed is acknowledged, and he is rewarded by being enrolled to a prestigious academy for noble children. That's actually the plot of like the first 2 episodes. But anyways, it's just a bad show. I don't really remember enough to complain about it. But I just know that I didn't like it, and know that you're not required to watch anything. If you want to check it out just to be like, is it as bad as he says? Or if you hate me and you're like, I'm going to watch it in spite of what he says, just to prove him wrong, just know that you don't have to finish it if you don't like it. And if you do like it, more power to you. There were some people who liked the show. I don't understand those people because I thought it was awful. I forget if this was my worst show of that year. No, this is 2021. So this was my second or third worst show because X-Arm was my worst show. And so the only reason this wasn't the worst show was because X-Arm came out. So take that with what you will. But anyways, we have that coming out in 2024. So yay, I'll probably watch it because it'll be fun to scream about. It'll make good content. Anyways, we have 2 more that got announced this past week. And one of those being Urahara, which is an anime original from Pony Canyon, and we actually have a little teaser trailer for it. And so there was a little teaser, and first thing I noticed, and this isn't like a super long teaser, but the first thing I noticed was how unique the art style was. It's such a unique art style. Like, take a look at these images. Like, I think there's a better one that I can show you. This one. Look at, like, this is what the world looks like. It's almost like an 8-bit, like, I guess, retro style in terms of its art design and animation, and I'm loving it. I have no idea what this is about. They haven't released a synopsis yet. There's no release date. All we know is that this was announced. We know that it's made by Pony Canyon, and we got a little bit of a teaser. We don't know when this is coming out. Because there's a teaser being made, I'm going to assume this is a 2024 release. I don't know what this is about, but dude, I haven't seen such imaginative animation in a while. Like, stuff that turns like the animation industry on its head. I've seen really cool stuff and really interesting stuff playing with, you know, the tropes of animation styles. But I haven't seen anything like this in a really, really long time. And so that's really, really exciting to see. There's one more image I have here. There's no synopsis, so I don't know what this is about, so I can't really talk about it other than the fact that it just looks amazing. Pony Canyon, I need you to release a synopsis so I can at least, if the synopsis is bad, I can start to temper my expectations. But right now, this looks really, really good, and I'm already super duper excited to see what the heck is going on there. So that's Urahara, and that has no specific release date or synopsis, made by Pony Canyon. I do believe that this is probably going to be a 2024 release, just simply due to the fact that we already have a teaser, unless this gets pushed back to like a 2025 release. But I don't see it getting pushed back any further than like a early to mid 2025. But I think it's going to be 2024. But that being said, we have one more that got announced that we need to talk about, and that is this Sengoku Youko. And so this is being made by White Fox. This is being adapted from, I believe, a manga. And this is getting a 2024 release date. And they did release a synopsis with this as well that says, the world is divided into two factions, humans and monsters called Katawara. Despite being a Katawara, Tama loves humans and vows to protect them from evil, even if it means fighting her own kind. Her brother Jinka, however, hates humans, despite mostly being one. The siblings are joined by a cowardly swordsman named Shinsuke, who wants to learn how to become strong. When the group uncovers a plot to experiment on humans and transform themselves into monsters, they vow to defeat whoever is behind it, even if it means battling an entire army of warriors. The people they meet, the places they see, and creatures they battle will be legendary. So this sounds fun. It sounds fine. White Fox is doing this. They've done some stuff that I've liked in the past. And so there's really nothing wrong here. I will say that the synopsis wasn't really anything that super caught my eye, or that I'm like, I need to watch this right now, or where's the trailer, or anything like that. But the art style on the poster looks fine. It's White Fox, so we kind of know what to expect. And the synopsis, that just bit my lip when I said synopsis. The synopsis is, it's fine. It's nothing that super catches my eye, but it's nothing that makes me go, I don't want to watch that. It's something I'd probably be interested in giving like an episode or two just to see if it can catch my interest. It sounds like a fun premise. I don't know what the reviews of the manga are specifically, but it did seem to be a more positive reaction than negative reaction. So there's hoping that the anime will also get a positive reaction. But that being said, guys, those are the anime announcements. So once again, we had Sound Euphonium coming out in April 2024, Sound Euphonium Season 3. We have Spirit Chronicles Season 2 getting a 2024 release date. It's not specific as to which season. We have Urahara, which has no specific release date, but we know it's being made by Pony Canyon. And we have Sengoku Youko, which is coming out in January 2024. Which of these are you most excited about? Are you excited about any of them? Did you love Spirit Chronicles and you want to talk about that more than, everything else, and you're like, that's really, really good, and you're just trying to trigger me, and now I'm upset? Maybe. Who's to say? I want to hear your thoughts on that. But with that being said, guys, we're going to move into our next story, which is anime premiere dates. We have finally some announcements for when certain anime are starting with the Quintessential Quintuplets. As you guys know, if you've been watching my channel, or if you've been watching the Otaku Experience for a while, or if you follow me on any other social media platform, you would know that the Quintessential Quintuplets is a super big guilty pleasure of mine. I freaking love it. I thought the movie was I didn't like the movie. I thought the movie was just way too long, and I didn't like the structure of it. But the reason why I didn't like it was not because he picked Yotsuba. Spoiler alert, I guess. But, at this point. And so we are getting a special that I believe is adapting some stuff that wasn't adapted in the original adaptation. And so we have an announcement that this is going to be a 2-part special that is coming out September 2nd and 9th. So that means we have about 3 weeks until the first part, and then we'll have a week after that, and that'll kind of be it, and that'll kind of be the end of Quintessential Quintuplets, which we thought the movie was going to be that. But if they can make money, they'll do it. I would not be surprised if in a few years we're getting like OVAs and like original stuff, or like extra chapters in the manga that they didn't adapt, whatever. But that being said, as a huge Quintuplets fan, I have to watch it. If Nino's there, I am there. I have a statue of her. She's over there somewhere. Yeah, she's over there. I got a Shinobu figure, by the way. Shinobu is now in the middle. There's actually this like manga shop that I never knew that like the manga shop doesn't live anywhere, but it's like 7 minutes from my house. And I was like, what is this? And so I popped over there, and they have not only comics, but they have an anime and manga section. So they sell manga, but they also sell like figures and like different merch and things like that. They had a ton of Demon Slayer stuff and like the big franchise stuff, but they had Shinobu, and I found Shinobu, and I was like, I have to get Shinobu. And they had like 3 different figures, and I was with my girlfriend, and I was like, I'm gonna cry, and because I love Shinobu. Anyways, she's like my favorite Demon Slayer character. I'm in love with her. But anyways, what are we talking about? Oh, Quintuplets. Yes, Quintuplets is coming out, and I will be there because Nino will be there, and that will be that, and I will be happy about it. But that being said, we have another show that was given a release date, and also they revealed how long the freaking first episode is going to be. It's freaking long. Okay, so we have Ragna Crimson here, which I honestly had like never heard of until this story came out, but that's okay because they have a synopsis, and I'll read that here in a bit. But they have announced that this is coming out on September 30th. It's going to be one of the anime that kicks off the fall season, and it's going to be a 1-hour premiere, 1-hour special first episode, which is interesting. Now, you might be wondering, Israel, what the heck is this show? We'll find out together. So here's the synopsis that they gave for us with Ragna Crimson. Dragon hunters use their silver swords to hunt dragons to make a living. Ragna, a starting out hunter buddies with Leonika, which is how I assume that says. It might be Leonika. I don't know. A genius dragon hunter with a tremendous score to battle dragons every day. Ragna has only one wish. I wouldn't complain if I can't become strong. I just want to be with Leo. But his small wish is brutally shattered by an attack of a superior dragon, a being much stronger than any dragon they had fought with. Seeing the strong enemy in front of him, Ragna remembers a bad dream he had been suffering from for the past few days. In his dream, Ragna was stronger than anyone else, but living in a devastating future life in solitude, with nothing to save and protect. What is his future trying to tell him? What path should he take now? Ragna takes one step forward to avert his devastating future with a new buddy called Crimson, who is a bag of mysteries. His enemy has ultimate strength. He fights against a forced destiny, fighting beyond his limits. An ultra-tough, ultimate isekai battle story begins. Why'd they have to throw the isekai part in there? Just take it out. I don't need that. But anyways, it sounds fine. The art style looks fine on the trail or on the poster here. I don't mind it. This is once again, it doesn't really strike me as the most interesting thing I've ever read, but it doesn't sound bad either. I'm going to check it out because it is a 1-hour special, and I need to support every time there is a 1-hour special. Whenever I need to support that to show the anime industry that I want longer episodes. And so I'm going to do that. But that being said, guys, are you interested in the Quintessential Quintuplets special? Are you even caught up on the Quintessential Quintuplets? Are you going to check out Ragna Crimson? Did that synopsis turn you around on it? Or are you going to check it out because there's a 1-hour special whenever, or whatever that may be, both coming out in September. So that's very exciting to see. But anyways, guys, we're going to hop right into the next story, which is, are authentic anime fantasy worlds dead? The Chainsaw Man Arthur seems to think so. At least that's kind of what the headlines are going to say. So for a little bit of context on this, the Chainsaw Man creator and author Tatsuki Fujimoto was interviewed by Terumura, I hope I pronounced that name right, a few weeks ago. And during the interview, the final film from Hayao Miyazaki that we talked about a little bit earlier, The Boy and the Heron, or How Do You Live, came up. And so there were some translations from an excerpt of this interview that caused a bit of a stir on Twitter, or X as it's now called. And I kind of wanted to read them and break the situation down and give my take on it, because I think it might be a lot more nuanced than what people are saying, and it might not be. Who's to say? So that being said, we're going to get right into reading the quotes. I'm just going to read basically their entire conversation, and I'll give my thoughts at the end here. So we start with Terunuma, or I think that's supposed to say Terumura, at least. I could be wrong, but maybe I wrote that down wrong, or whatever the case may be. And that says, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, or Nausicaa from now on, is a film based on the manga serialized by director Miyazaki himself. Fujimoto then said, manga can be controlled by one person, so it's easier to express the creator's personality than through live animation, action or animation. But now, Sika manga can be enjoyed the same way. I truly think that Miyazaki-san is a top tier as a mangaka. It is composition and is incredible. The paneling is easy to follow, and his storytelling is also pretty good. Plus, the outlines are amazing. I myself would like to outline and shade more in my own manga, but I can't do that much work with a weekly serialization. I'm envious of the outlines drawn in the Nausicaa manga, which can only be done at a pace equivalent or slower than a monthly serialization. Then Fujimoto said, for example, director Miyazaki knows a lot about other countries, so he can create fantasy worlds based on one specific or several countries. However, for otakus who are in their 30s or 40s like us, if you ask them to draw a fantasy, then it would end up being the world setting from a Final Fantasy game. Then Terunuma or Terumura said, like how the so-called isekai otherworld reincarnation worlds are based on RPG games. And so he's kind of talking about the isekai genre as a whole there. Then Fujimoto said, from an academic perspective, I think people who can create works like director Miyazaki will be no more later on. Of course, one can create works based on their own gathered research, but I have a feeling that people who spend money to specifically travel abroad for research will be no more. Then Terunuma said, how do you live, or how do you live, I think is supposed to be the translation, or The Boy and the Heron, is a work which has caused director Miyazaki to withdraw from retirement several times. But do you truly believe there is such retirement for creators? Fujimoto replied, I'm not sure about that, but Oshino co-writer Aka Akasaka himself did declare, I won't draw this. I thought it must be so nice. I don't want to do that too. Then Numa said, I like how I felt the resolved, which screams, let's make a new work from that. Then Fujimoto said, I'd be happy if you could start drawing it for me too. Then Terunuma says, does Fujimoto-san ever have any thoughts like I want to focus on writing stories? Fujimoto says, yes, that would be incredibly more fun. Terunuma says, on the other hand, what about only drawing in the same manner? Then we have the final one here, the final quote, at least, which is Fujimoto saying, I have not, of course. It's fun to balance the story and the art, and there is certainly a level of enjoyment to just stories. But as far as art goes, in my case, I think I could only deliver a narrow-minded impression to the audience. And so that was kind of an excerpt from this conversation that they were having, and I don't know why the translation spelled his name this way. I'm just gonna look it up to make sure. It is Terumura, apparently Terumura, and so this, I guess, is wrong. I didn't write this. This is just screenshots of the article from Twitter. So anyways, this is the full article, or the full excerpt that is in question. And then this would be the specific quote up here at the top that people are, I guess, taking issue with, for lack of a better term. So I'll reread it here. That says, for example, director Miyazaki knows a lot about other countries, so he can create fantasy works based on one specific or several countries. However, for otakus who are in their 30s or 40s like us, if you ask them to draw a fantasy, then it'd end up like the world from a Final Fantasy game. And so what people are taking away from this is that with Miyazaki retiring means that there is going to then be an absence, or a death, for lack of a better term, of certain types of worlds that can be seen in this, at least authentic, which is the way that it's being worded a lot in terms of this conversation being had that people are seeing. And so that's the question. Do I agree? To a degree, I do. I agree to a degree in the sense that I don't know if I see the current trajectory of the industry going in that direction. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible, and that doesn't mean that it can't go that way. Another quote that wasn't in this excerpt that did actually come up was they talked about Makoto Shinkai. And he talked about, Fujimoto brought up how Makoto Shinkai is able to do, stories that are very relevant to Japan, like with, everything that he does, The Garden of Words, Your Name, Weathering with You, Suzume, and all of his previous works before that, where he can do stuff that really has to do with the culture of Japan. And really, you don't get the full appreciation unless you either A, are Japanese, or B, know so much about Japan to get all the nuances of his story. Us in our own cultures, we can understand that level of depth is there, but we can't fully appreciate it, if that makes sense. And so what he's saying is that Hayao Miyazaki can not only do that for Japan, he can do that for every other country and create fantasy worlds on top of that. And he doesn't know, and I'll go back to this to see his quote, he doesn't believe, or he doesn't know if there are going to be, if I can find the freaking quote here, I think it's here. Yeah, but I have a feeling that people who spend money to specifically travel abroad for research will be no more. I think in a grand scheme of things, he could be right. But that being said, there's only one Hayao Miyazaki, though, right? I mean, currently there's only one who's doing it on this scale. And so it's not going to be a bunch of people because it just never is. We see this criticism a lot in Hollywood these days where people are going, well, the reason why these really, really good, sci-fi epic stories are kind of like going down in terms of quality, in terms of their writing, is because we had authors back in the day like Tolkien, like C.S. Lewis, who had lived through wars and who had either served or were just, there to cover it and see exactly what was going on. And they kind of lived through this stuff. And so then they can apply that into their work, and then it can be a lot more authentic. I think that is the case, that writers, and I'm still talking about specifically the sci-fi genre, and I'll connect it here in a second, that I think that there are people like today, like unless you're like in Ukraine or in Russia, you don't have that firsthand experience in that war, which I would say is a good thing, because war is not a good thing. And I don't think that just to have good stories that we should then go try to fight in wars. I don't think that that's a good trade-off. But and to a degree, there is a level of research you can do, but it's hard to fully recreate something without having that full experience. And so he's saying that he has I'll reread the quote again. Of course, one can create works based on their own gathered research. So what he means there is like online stuff. So I can look up stuff all the time about Japan and the anime industry and things like that. And I can know only so much just from reading everything about it and looking into different things like that and knowing basically all there is to it. But I won't truly understand it until I experience it for myself, whether I, go behind the scenes of an anime for a day and like follow and just watch and see how everybody's doing and be involved in that process. Or if I'm just talking about Japan in general, until I visit Japan and just see what that culture is like for myself. And then only then would I be able to, I say authentically, but I'm not, fully Japanese or whatever. So authentically, you're not seeing my quotations, authentically recreate a certain culture, or at least take inspiration from that for fantasy worlds. And I think he has a point here. I think that we're seeing that where we can know all the facts we want, but I think there's a reason why there's that disconnect, and it's just because people aren't doing as much as they should. People are just like, oh yeah, I can look this up online and do and make something about that. But whereas Hayao Miyazaki would go to other countries and look at other cultures and see what other people believe and how other people act. And then not only would he, recreate these cultures, but then he would, combine them. He would take out certain aspects and put something else in, or he would merge different cultures together to recreate something new, which is how we get to see all these really imaginative Ghibli films. And so what Fujimoto's saying is that he doesn't know or at least he's saying he doesn't believe that that's going to be a popular thing to do in the future, and that with Miyazaki, these authentic fantasy worlds and fantasy cultures dies out, which is a very terrifying, idea to think about if you love this stuff like I do. That's a very terrifying idea. But my optimistic side wants to say he's wrong. And I think it's a much more nuanced answer. I think there's going to be a time where we're not going to have Miyazaki around. I mean, he's in the later years of his life. He's going to pass away in a few years, whether that's, you know, in a decade, a little more than a decade, or a little less. He's in the final act of his life, and he's had a great, fulfilling life, and he's left an incredible impression on just, I won't even say in just Japanese cinema or in cinema in general. He's just left a thumbprint on art in general, and his art will always be remembered in art history, whether we're looking at different paintings by like Picasso or whatever, or like listening to music like Beethoven or Mozart. You will have Miyazaki films up there. He has just left that thumbprint. So he has had an amazing, wonderful life and career. And so I think there's going to be a period where you don't have that. But I think because of the absence of that, whether it's the audience starts demanding for it, or the industry itself realizes it's not there, or you're going to have some auteur who notices that's not there, who has a love for that cinema and maybe connected with Hayao Miyazaki's films on a certain level, that they then take up of that and carry it forward and continue that. I don't think that this is it. That's it. You know, Miyazaki's done. That means this is done. I don't think that that's the end all be all. I think there's going to be a period where that is the case, but I think eventually true art will prevail. And I think that authentic art will always triumph over, for lack of a better term, artificial art. But what I mean by that is not to say that there's like any less love being put into it, but it's really hard to recreate something if you haven't actually experienced it. Like I can know all about, like, well, I just said it. I'm not going to repeat myself, but you know, I can know all about Japan, but I'll never truly grasp it until I go there. And I think that that's something that will never be replaced. You can't recreate that without actually experiencing something like that. Or at least understanding something on that fundamental level, which is basically like living through it. So anyways, I think that it is a very nuanced opinion that he is giving here. I disagree with him slightly on his conclusion of these things. My light just fell down. I'll pick it up in a second. But that being said, guys, what do you think about what the Chainsaw Man creator and author Tatsuki Fujimoto said in his interview with Kenta Terumura? Tongue twister of a name. I'll get it one day. In this interview, and how do you think that this is going to play out in a post-Miyazaki industry? I would really love to hear your thoughts on this, because I think that this is a terrifying issue if you love the art like I do, like obviously Fujimoto does, like Miyazaki does, and we just want the best for this industry. And I think that artificial will never beat authentic art. That's kind of my takeaway from it. But that being said, we're going to move on into the Goofy Woofy anime community for this week's episode. That is all for the news this week. And so now it's time for us to all go into our favorite part of the show, the Goofy Woofy anime community. All right, so first things first, we have Chainsaw Man is celebrating a new volume release. And what they did with that is it's really... I don't even know how to get into this, but they have a 8-bit video game to celebrate. And so people have been playing this. They've been getting scores on it. I haven't played it myself, but I think this is really, really cute. And so this comes to us from CBR that says, according to Comic Natalie, the smartphone game celebrates the 15th volume of Tatsuki Fujimoto's ongoing manga. The game features an 8-bit aesthetic and an incredibly high difficulty level in it. Gamers take control of Denji, the titular character, and Asa Mitaka as they attempt to escape the falling devil on a bike. And so people have been playing this. I think this is just really fun and really cute. There's not really much to say about it. But anyways, getting into another MAPPA property. I mean, if you're talking about in terms of the anime adaptations of it. But we have, last week we talked about this. We had Jujutsu Kaisen getting introduced into Fortnite, and I complained. But we had good news, and that's that its run will be limited. And that's that the run, or the collab with Fortnite will end by the end of the month on August 25th. So this comes to us from Anime Trending that says, the Fortnite and Jujutsu Kaisen collaboration Break the Curse is now live until August 25th at 2 a.m. Eastern Time. A new trailer previewing some of the collab's contents has been released. So thank God We've been saved from this. I don't like Fortnite. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for this. If you like Fortnite, that's cool. I'm not going to apologize. I don't like Fortnite. I think it's goofy. I don't like my brands that I love and care about being put in Fortnite. You may think that's petty, and you're right. It is. But I just hope that Sword Art Online never gets put in there. But anyways, with that funny part of the show out of the way, it's really short guac this week, but with that funny part of the show out of the way, we're going to jump straight into the summer 2023 audience rankings of the past week, starting with the anime trending chart. So jumping over to the anime trending chart, at number 1 for week 4 is My Happy Marriage, and that went up 1 spot from number 2. Then at number 2, we had Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead, which went up 1 spot. Then we had Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, which went down 2 spots to number 3. Then we had Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation Season 2, which went up 1 spot to number 4. Then we had Bleach 1000 Year Blood War, The Separation, moving up 4 spots to number 5. The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses dropped 2 spots to number 6. Bungo Stray Dogs Season 5 was a re-entry into the top 10, and it re-entered into number 7. Harimia the Missing Pieces dropped 2 spots to number 8. Dark Gathering dropped 2 spots to number 9. And The Masterful Cat is Depressed Again Today dropped 2 spots to number 10. Moving on over to the Anime Corner chart. This is week 5. And we had Bungo Stray Dogs staying at the same rank at number 1, and that got 17.71% of the vote. That is a huge hold for them. They can really be proud about that. At number 2, we had My Happy Marriage going up 3 spots from number 5 to number 2, and that got 8.18% of the vote. Then we had Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead going up 4 spots from rank 7 to rank 3, and that got 6.21% of the vote. At number 4, we had Bleach 1000 Year Blood War, The Separation going down 2 spots from rank 2, and that got 4.77% of the vote. Then we had Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 going down 2 spots from rank 3 to rank 5, and that got 4.66% of the vote. Then we had Mushoku Tensei Season 2 going down 2 spots from rank 4 to rank 6, and I got 4.5% of the vote. Then we had Dark Gathering going up 1 spot from number 8 to rank 7, and that got 4.3% of the vote. Then we had Spy Classroom Season 2 going up 1 spot from rank 9 to rank 8, and that got 2.84% of the vote. Then we had Undead Girl Murder Farce, which went down 3 spots from rank 6 to rank 9, and that got 2.43% of the vote. And rounding out the top 10 for Anime Corner, we had Masamune Kun's Revenge R. Can I say things? And that stayed at the same rank, and that got 2.08% of the vote. With that being said, guys, we're going to go right into responding to your comments and questions from the past week. Yeah, as I mentioned last week, I buffered. I don't know what happened. As I mentioned last week, the segment where I read your comments and questions and I respond to them is back. If you want to get your comment or question responded to me in the next episode, you can hop into the comment section down below and leave whatever you want to write. But let's get right into the comments. All right, so the first comment we had was from Eli Craig 2601, and it said, I watched the first Slam Dunk this past week, and I really enjoyed it. It is one of my favorite movies of the year. Sadly, I was the only person there, but it was an early morning screening. But I hope more people see it, and I would be curious to hear your thoughts on the movie. Also, The Boy and the Heron premiering at TIFF is very exciting. I think the idea that if Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse gets nominated for Best Picture, that is already a massive achievement for that movie, and we know there is another one coming. I think this could make the Academy want to award Hayao Miyazaki one last time. Thanks for another enjoyable episode. Well, you and I are on like the same brainwave with this, Eli. I think that I completely agree. This is exactly what I've been saying. If Spider-Verse does get nominated for Best Picture, I think that does mean that they could give it to The Boy and the Heron, just because I think that the fact that Spider-Verse would even get nominated for Best Picture, and it would be the fourth animated film in history to do that, I think that would be a major big deal. And I think that would be a award in and of itself, and I think that maybe they would want to reward the third film in doing so, kind of like how they saved the Oscar for Best Picture for Return of the King when it came to the Lord of the Rings movies. As for the first Slam Dunk, sadly, like I said before, I have not had a chance to see it. And so I'll probably have to wait until streaming. But the fact that you're saying it's one of your favorite movies of the year really bodes well. I'm super excited to see it. From every account I've heard, it is really, really great. And so I cannot wait. I'm glad you liked it. And thanks for your comment. Going into our second comment, was from Jaime or Jamie Cardona 92. I hope I said that right. And it said the director of a fan of One Piece, and Oda was heavily involved. I think you mean the director is a fan of One Piece, and Oda was heavily involved. If there was ever going to be a good live action, this is what it would take. I agree. I think that I don't think that necessarily good adaptations have to be like you have to have the creator super duper involved or whatever that may be. But I think that having people who care about the source material and are actually passionate about it is very, very important that are working on it. The fact that Oda is involved also bodes super well. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm saying that that's a great thing, but I don't know if it was a necessary thing. I agree that this is going to be, or at least it looks promising. I'm not going to say that it is going to be great, but it looks good. And I'm very excited to see what's going on there. Thanks for your comment. I don't know if that's Jaime or Jamie. I'm very sorry. But going on to our third comment, we had from Jess Lath, and it says, and they say, Uzumaki is one of the more famous works from horror manga master Junji Ito. I hope it's great. The manga is wonderful. Well, that bodes well. I might have to give like the first couple chapters a read just to see what's going on, because that trailer was freaking fascinating, and I'm dying to watch this. It looked so good. All of those Adult Swim trailers looked so good, man. If you haven't seen those yet, I recommend go watch them. I hope it's amazing, Jess Lath. I really do. And going into our final comment was from Spartan Swain 13. Secret Invasion looked good in trailers. Let's not get ahead of ourselves on One Piece. I actually disagree. I didn't really like the trailers for Secret Invasion all that much. I liked the show for like the first 3 episodes, and then every episode after that, I kind of accepted the fact that it was kind of mid, and then I didn't like the finale at all. So I wouldn't say that it's the same thing. And yes, I know that just because I'm saying that I'm excited for One Piece and I think that the trailers look good, doesn't mean I'm immediately going to be like, yeah, the show's going to be amazing. Do I have hope for the show's going to be amazing? Yeah. Do I straight up think the show's going to be amazing? I don't know if it's going to be amazing, but I think it's going to be enjoyable. I think it'll be fun. It looks like there's a lot of passion and soul in that. But I would disagree on the Secret Invasion trailers. I honestly can't even remember them. But yeah, I mean, we could talk about the show all day long, but I don't remember the trailers, so I don't know if that's like the greatest of markers. But I guess it's like current, so maybe that's why that was brought up. But yeah, definitely don't get ahead of ourselves on One Piece. I think that, like I've said many times this year, I think that I'm going in cautiously optimistic. I think that everyone involved in everything I've heard from Oda being involved and all the trailers we've seen, everything has looked good so far. They've been doing good so far. But is that just a trick of the hand with the marketing? I guess we'll find out when it finally does come out on Netflix, which is actually pretty soon. It's coming out, in like a couple weeks, so we'll be able to talk about that here in a bit. So that's going to be exciting. But that being said, guys, that's it for all of the comments that you guys left what am I saying? In last week's episode. If you want to get a comment on next week's episode, just hop into the comments below and leave a comment. With that being said, guys, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Otaku Experience. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. It was a good episode. My shoulder hurts. It's been hurting the entire time, but I talk with my arms and my hands, so I don't know what to do. Maybe I should have kept it in the sling, but no, I also need to control the thing. Anyways, what did you guys think of this week's episode? What did you guys think of the stories that we talked about, specifically with the Fujimoto Miyazaki situation going on there? And then that's very interesting. Leave all your comments and thoughts down below. With that being said, guys, if you want to see me and more of what I do, the spring seasonal review is coming. I promise. I didn't forget about it. I'm working on it as much as I can. I'm very, very tired. I'm doing so much. And then this happened. Thanks. Thank you. But if you want to keep up with me on all social medias, you can follow me on Instagram or YouTube at Kingtanic, or you can follow me on Twitter at Kingtanic. Israel, if you want to watch more things on the Bur Network, obviously we have Midnight Musings. We have Observations, which is the flagmark show of the Bur Network. We have Lana Ewan's Bur Network reviews. We have Let's Get Physical Media. We have Architects of Imagination. We have all of Artem's shows because she has like 30 of them. She's I don't know how she does it. She's so busy. We have K-Pop PGS. We have the members chat, which I believe is actually, there's one this week. So make sure you guys join us for that. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Otaku Experience. And I will see you guys next week.